This week, we're talking all about the PlayStation Showcase. This is the Good Game, Bad Game podcast.
This is a song I wrote about the Good Game, Bad Game podcast. Good Game, Bad Game podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Good Game, Bad Game podcast. I'm your host, Spencer, and with me is a man who believes Jim Ryan is more of a coward than Roger Goodell because at least Roger faces a live audience. It's my co-host, Mike. Mike, how are you?
That's pretty accurate, actually.
That was a good one, right?
Yeah.
I was kicking my feet giggling, typing that up when watching the showcase. I was like, ooh,
Yeah, that was...
I have my intro for Mike, ooh.
And it's like, he knows it's a thing to be booed at the draft.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like if Jim Ryan were booed, he'd probably
crumble.
melt.
Yeah, he'd crumble for sure. Yeah, so the showcase was today. As of recording this, we're recording this on the 24th, so getting it out fresh for you. And there's, plenty to talk about with it. We have our kind of current thoughts, basically, because it really just ended like basically an hour ago, and technically for you, like
it just ended.
Yeah, I was gonna say you had to start it late. So I'm really excited to kind of talk about this. We're at that time of the year, but before we get into it, I have to hear.
You don't.
I don't.
No, not really. I can save you some time and get right into this PlayStation thing because I did not play anything but Madden.
I would say I'm surprised.
I
am a little surprised.
I am too, because I was on a pretty good roll.
You really were.
But for what it's worth, it's not like I played a ton of Madden in lieu of other games. It's the past really 2 weeks. I've had barely any time to play video games. So like when I do, it's like 1 or 2 games of Madden. And that's it.
I get it.
It's just a good go-to. Like, I already know I'm gonna blow out the computer like 100-0. So
right, like you're not gonna get like sweaty.
No, it's literally just end of the day. My brain can't do anything else.
I get that. I definitely get that. I'm honestly in a fairly similar boat. I really don't have much to update on either. I started playing through some games that are leaving PlayStation Plus this month, and there's so I played through 2 of them, but really there's only one that I think is worth even getting into. It's called 9 Monkeys of Shaolin. I don't know if you've heard of it.
I can't say that I have.
It's probably a game from like 2014 or something stupid, but it was like very enjoyable to play. Very satisfying combat and very quick story as well. I literally started it and beat it all in one day. It took me about, 4 hours maybe. I literally just kept walking back over from my laptop for work and would like run through a level, and that was a lot of fun. But then other than that, basically I played MLB, and Shelby and I streamed a little Nobody Saves the World last night, which that game continues to be an absolute blast.
I gotta be honest with you, 4 hours to beat a game is like pretty much my sweet spot now. It used to be 8 because it's a known fact that I really like my linear, quick story games. But 4 hours, that's great. That makes me feel like I can actually like play a video game.
It's nice too, because it's like one of those things where like I think the 8 hours is still like close to a sweet spot for me, but there's just something so satisfying about knowing that you can sit down and play a game and really get all that it's worth in like one sitting. And like it doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing, right? Like there's something to be said about paying $60 for Uncharted and like playing it in one sitting and kind of being like, well, fuck, I kind of hate myself because like you almost like start to question if you even enjoyed it. But
I never had that issue.
But it is satisfying, right? Like, okay, well, I have that issue. That was my main issue with Last of Us when it first came out, is that I played it too fast and I forced myself to stop, and then picking it back up kind of was difficult because it's always hard to pick games back up. regardless, that there's still something kind of beautiful about getting a game and like really being able to like get through it. And like, again, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Um, but yeah, 4 hours. It was definitely very nice. Um, all right, let's talk about the showcase. That's the main thing we want to talk about. I'm curious. Or that's the only thing we're talking about. I'm curious what your, I guess, give me your overall thoughts, and then we can kind of dive into just about everything that was announced.
Objectively, I thought it was really good. Like, this is probably the first games showcase that reminded me of something like pre-COVID.
Hmm.
I will admit most of the games uh, they showcased were not for me,
Hmm.
but I can appreciate what they put out there and kind of what it means for the industry moving forward.
Yeah, I will say from a content standpoint, I agree with you. It did feel like, and I mean, it makes sense because the last PlayStation showcase was technically in 2020. So during the uh, pandemic, right? Or was it 2019? I might be thinking of
Uh,
I might be thinking of the 2019 one that was like right before the PS5.
that would have been 2020.
Oh, it would have been 2020. You're right because yeah,
Yeah,
because the PS5 came out. Yeah, which is crazy to think about.
weird, right?
Yeah, because we all know that that was probably a mistake. Um, yeah, so I kind of agree with you. I guess technically the thing I'm working off of was during the pandemic, but nonetheless, it felt like a lot of content. I would say that the thing and a lot of really cool games I think were shown. Like I feel like I often walk away from these types of shows like just wanting to see more about so many of the games.
Hmm.
And I think like the thing that probably um was like the only downfall to this showcase is the fact that like so many of the um trailers and stuff were like cinematic trailers and not really like even showing off a little bit of the gameplay. Um that being said, there were still some that did show off some cool gameplay, and then I think sometimes a cinematic trailer can be super effective in terms of drawing up hype, and I have a perfect one in mind for what was shown. Um, but sometimes I can go really back and forth on that. And then the other thing too that I sometimes hate about um, these showcases that like Sony will do or Xbox will do or Nintendo will do is that I can't ever tell if something is being shown because it's an exclusive or if they just got the rights basically to show it. And I know
Yes.
that's intentional. I know that they're trying to cause basically confusion so that
And there is such a good example of that.
honestly, I think most of these are an example of that because I can only point to a handful. I mean, they showed so fucking much, but
Hmm.
that were I know legitimately for PlayStation only. But there is one that I have in mind, and I'm curious what yours is. That we'll get into it. Um, Regardless, that's the only thing that I sometimes have against it as well. I think like if I had to assign a letter grade to it, potentially because I am a Sony fanboy, but I would probably give it a B still
Hmm.
just because again it was just so much given to us. Now that letter grade I think could heavily change depending on what happens in these coming weeks because like if Xbox comes out and their showcase is literally all Xbox studios just like cramming everything that Xbox is doing on your throat, then I think that makes Sony look bad. That makes PlayStation look bad in this scenario.
But
um Go ahead.
so I'm sorry. Can we touch on that?
Sure.
Because I don't know how fair that statement is because I feel like PlayStation over 2022 did a decent job of saying like, hey, these are going to be our exclusives over the next couple of years. Better than Xbox. Is it fair for me to say that?
Yeah, probably.
So the understanding is Xbox needs to come out in the showcase and basically only show Xbox Game Studios stuff. because we've heard so little over the past year.
Mhm.
And like even though we know it's all there and they're just not talking about it, people are getting antsy about that. So I expect Xbox's showcase to be primarily Xbox Game Studios games. I'm not going to say exclusive games.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Um, I don't know. I think like the inverse would be true too. Like if this was all just Naughty Dog, Sony Santa Monica, and I get that it's just different timing for like when games are coming and stuff like that. I'm not necessarily saying that's a knock against them. I think position wise, you position yourself so much better if all you show is because I mean that's been the case previously, right? It's why Sony I think sometimes comes out of these like months and stuff, these like time frames looking so good is because they just gave you all the games you've been questioning where they're at and they give it, and then Xbox doesn't really give you anything for what's going on with them. And so
Hmm.
like that's kind of where I see like a potential for like an inverse. You're right though. Like what else could they have shown? I don't know, right? I guess the only thing, spoiler, if you haven't watched it yet and you're listening to this first, the only thing that I can think of that was in development that they didn't show or that we know is in development is the like Last of Us factions or whatever.
And Wolverine.
And Wolverine, but that one I don't know. That one's kind of a throwaway for me. Like I care more about Spider-Man 2 and where that's at, whereas Wolverine I think they said 2024 when they showed that teaser.
Mm, okay.
You know what I mean? So like that I'm kind of like I can pass on that, especially cuz Insomniac has another game they're working on. So, okay. So that's kind of a quick like how we feel the showcase went overall. Yeah.
Yep.
Now, to kind of get into it, and we can obviously just like speed up, slow down where we really want to. I tried my best because I knew no site was going to have stuff in a good order. So I did my best to try and like write everything down in order. Um and that way we can try and keep it like semi on track with how it went. So the first thing out the gate that they showed was Haven and what they have been working on this entire time, which is basically a heist game. And the general like story idea is that you're effectively trying to take down billionaires and everything like that. I thought it was funny that one of the names was Elliot Moore, and when I first saw it, I thought it said Elon Musk, which I feel like is exactly what they were going for. But I guess it's PvP, going to be like a sort of, I guess, because I'm assuming there's also going to be NPCs and like AI and stuff like that. And so I think it's called like Hunt Showdown or something like that, where you have to move through the world, and I might have the name wrong and I might be saying a different game, but you have to like move through the world and you still fight like these monsters and stuff like that and you loot, but then you sometimes run into other players as well. And that's kind of the vibe I was getting off of this. Um Looked interesting. Um Again, this was an instance where I think this was mostly just like cinematics, but
Yeah.
definitely interested to see more.
We've obviously, I mean, I can speak for myself. I think you've kind of been a Jade Raymond stan as well on this podcast because that's what we do. Um, I saw the Haven sizzle thing and was like, oh, cool, this is very exciting. Um, I didn't really know what to make of it, and like I understand it's a game that's very early in development. I don't think I fully processed that it was going to be like a PvP or PvE kind of game. Um, which is a little disappointing for me.
Hmm.
I really, really, really wanted a story heavy game from Haven out the
Yep.
gate. So, I'm excited to see more about it. Regardless, I hope it does really well. I just don't want it to be like, I don't know. Thinking back on it, I'm like, is this just going to basically be like a Rainbow Six Siege ripoff?
Yeah. I definitely understand that like thought process. So I also wasn't sure, and watching it, I kind of held the same thought as you of like, I really hope this is like heavily story focused and just kind of like watchdogsy in the sense of
Yeah.
like taking down the man and stuff like that, right? Um, on The Verge, they had an article linked where they kind of dove into it just a tiny bit more, and in there they say it's a competitive multiplayer title with a focus on heists.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I don't know. I have no idea. We'll obviously have
It's
to
what
wait to see more.
it's what the industry wants, and I'm just going to have to get over that.
Yeah, and I think there was some more stuff like that where it was like a lot of like live servicey type games kind of
Mm.
popping up. That yeah, kind of with you where uh it might end up not being for me, which is disappointing, but obviously we'll see.
Yeah, that might be unfortunate, but yeah, at that point, I have to also cheer for it and hope it does really well, and hope that PlayStation lets Haven kind of branch out and explore other areas, and they
Mhm.
don't just lock them into this like money grab PvP game for their entirety.
100%. Um Also this is I think coming to PC if I remember correctly. So that's interesting. All right. Second up was Helldivers 2. Um I never played the first Helldivers. The general like gameplay for me looked similar to like Deep Rock Galactic, where you're just kind of like
Hmm.
fighting hordes of little alien things and then I guess working towards some sort of area. Um I thought the like CGI intro of it was rather funny. And the thing I'll say kind of as a blanket statement for the rest of all like that we talk about, at least for me, if I don't strictly comment on the visuals, um, it's safe to assume that the visuals were just like really good. Like either graphically looked realistic or just like absolutely stunning like landscape shots, stuff like that. Like that would be my biggest takeaway from this was like everything looked so damn good visually.
Yeah, I'm not going to comment on the graphics because I was having a lot of internet issues and I was trying to watch it, so it was pretty pixelated for
Oh
me.
no.
Yeah, so I'll have to everything like if I could process it in my brain looked good, but hard for me to comment on it.
You're like filling in the blanks.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like, why does this look like a PS3? I was like, that can't be right, except for another game we'll talk about later, which I thought was comical. But um, when this game, and I'm like scrambling to Google it because I can't remember the name, but I think you will. Um, when this game first started kicking off, um, I thought they were bringing back a franchise. Um, you got to help me with the name. It was on PS3, and it was supposed to be like a big multiplayer game. I want to say it had like Star or something in the name.
um the
I think
only
you could do like
go ahead.
16 on 16 games. It was third person, and there was like all sorts of different vehicles and stuff.
Uh Warhawk.
Well, yes, I think that's right.
Well, and then Warhawk did have a sequel that had Star in it. What was it
It
called?
Warhawk is what I'm thinking of.
Starhawk. Yeah. Starhawk
Okay.
was the sequel, so that's where you were thinking Star. But yeah, okay. You
I
thought
thought
it was
this game when they first showed the gameplay was going to be Warhawk.
that's funny.
And I was like, that would be sick. I know that game like didn't do anything, but you and I had a ton of fun in it.
Hell yeah. And that was just you and I against each other basically.
Pretty much, yeah. It was hard to get into a game because no one ever played it.
Oh my
I think the
god.
servers were up for like a year.
That is a blast from the past. Um Yeah, I don't know. I might have to check out Helldivers because I believe that was probably free at some point. I mean, that was the other thing that was kind of a takeaway is a lot of sequels were shown during this,
Yeah, which leads to another strong opinion with these showcases, which I think I've talked about before.
being that.
there's no new games in them
Yeah.
ever.
It's always it's always a sequel, a remake, a remaster, a prequel,
Yeah.
a side game. Every now and again though we get new games. Which I believe the next one was Immortals of Avium. I think I got the name right. Um I don't think we had seen anything about this, and I was surprised to see at the end that they're expecting this to release in July of this year. I believe I clocked that right. It's from EA. Um, and I was trying the entire time to make sense of what it was reminding me of. I don't know if Bioshock's the right answer. Like, but just like the way it,
Dishonored came to mind for me.
okay, all right, yeah. Like I was just trying to think. Like I know I could picture a game where you were kind of like swapping between different abilities, and like the only thing that kept coming to mind was like Bioshock for whatever reason. I
I
think you
mean,
might
you
be
could
right.
do that in Bioshock. Like you had like freeze and telekinesis and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I was just
Fire, I think.
Dishonored is I think another like good one. But I was definitely getting vibes like that from it. Again, visually looked pretty good. Um, Definitely excited to see more, especially since that was again the first that I had seen of it.
Yeah, I tried so hard watching it. I was like, I'm not going to be hypercritical of this, but and if it weren't EA, I probably wouldn't be as critical as I am internally about it. But it literally just looks like a shitty Bethesda ripoff, and I'm sorry, there's no better way I can put it. It just feels like EA thinks they need to fill a gap, and I imagine we'll probably go the same way as other EA games that try to branch out like this.
I'm curious. So it's from Ascendant Studios. Do we know anything else that they've made?
I can find out.
This might be it. Oh, and apparently this was announced at the Game Awards, but it might have just been like a teaser, like words popped up.
Hmm. Yeah, like
Interesting.
this is our game.
Yeah,
This is the only thing I see. So it must be a new studio.
a debut. Well, it'll be interesting to see how it's like received and like where the studio is able to go from there. Hopefully, not just a
Yeah,
sequel, right?
it was founded in 2018. Games developed. Yeah, this is it. So they've either done fuck all or have been working on this for 5 years. I'll lean towards the latter.
Yeah,
It's a former Sledgehammer Games person,
I did see that. Yeah, we shall see.
and a lot of people from Telltale.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, this is on Wikipedia, but it says after Telltale Games went bankrupt in 2018, most of the developers working at the studio moved to Ascendant Studios, including Ascendant Studios art directors Dave Bogan and Julia Lichblau.
Hmm.
The studio grew from 50 developers to over 100 developers in less than a year. So apparently, people like the vision. Developers like the vision. So we'll see. Maybe I'll be wrong. And if EA is just the publisher and just giving them money, hopefully they have no creative direction and they can actually produce a decent game.
Right. Not to totally derail, but is Telltale Games a thing again?
I thought so, right? Didn't somebody
Yeah.
buy him out?
Okay, I thought so too. Interesting. Well, maybe we'll see something from them at the well, not the Game Awards. Summer Games Fest. All right. The next game, I thought the intro to this looked really sick. It was Ghost Runner 2, which I don't know if you've played any of the first one. It was on PlayStation Plus. I know or maybe it was one of the free games. I can't remember if it's like in the catalog right now or what, but I know somehow I got it through PlayStation Plus and I started playing it, and it is very difficult first off, but it is incredibly fun too. It's just one of those games where you like have to traverse an area almost like Mirror's Edge.
Hmm.
in a way, if I remember that game correctly. And I thought the second one looks really sick. I'm confused. This is one where I was kind of confused. Is this a PlayStation exclusive, or is it coming out to other um like consoles and stuff? My assumption is it is coming out to other ones, but again, it like shows at the end of the sequel or at the end of the trailer, like it just shows PS5, and it's like, well,
Yeah. Well, the original Ghost Runner was on just about everything.
right. So the assumption would be,
Man, is this our first like new gen sequel?
um,
Because this game initially came out October 27, 2020. So I guess not. This came out like 2 weeks before the new gen.
but it does have a PS5 and like next gen version. I'm pretty sure. Either way, I think it looks sick. Like visually, the first one did as well, and honestly, pretty excited to probably watch somebody else play this game.
Yeah, I almost bought Ghost Runner a couple of times now.
Hmm.
I think I actually almost bought it for Switch. But I was reading a review and it was terrible on there or something. But it's definitely been a game that's intrigued me. I think it was free on Stadia, maybe at one point,
Okay.
but I just never jumped into it. I still haven't, and now I can't.
Well, I mean, you can. It's still available
No,
elsewhere.
not on Stadia.
Yeah, not on Stadia. um, yeah, no, I thought that looked good, and then right after that was that Phantom Blade Zero, or at least I think that's the name of it. Um, and I thought that had like kind of like a story trailer to it, right? Where kind of
Mhm.
starts out cinematic, starts out with this like, what's your plan, knowing you only have 66 days to live. And then it just starts getting into the like combat and the traversal of the game. And I thought it looked absolutely insane. It looked like almost too much is going on. But I'm guessing it's supposed to be fairly like hack and slashy instead of the first instinct when you see any game with this type of art is to assume Souls born esque. And my
Mhm.
guess is this is supposed to be a little more like button mashy and like probably at the same time also a little more forgiving than like needing to like dodge so heavily and parry and stuff like that. But what did you think of this?
I'm always so critical of like samurai games because it feels like it's a new niche that
Yes.
everyone wants to have a game in. But I looked at it, and this is an existing franchise, so I guess I can forgive them. Uh, but yeah, it looked really interesting. Um, we'll see what the story's about, but you're right. I mean, it does look more um, accessible in terms of it's. I don't think it is like a Soulsborne game. I mean, there were like cinematic live action events
Hmm.
that you had to control, and the combat wasn't like 80 enemies surrounding you.
Right.
So looks interesting. Will I play it? Probably not. But at least it at least doesn't seem like it's just going to be another game jumping on the samurai hype train.
Yeah. We really did get an influx of those. I'm curious because you said that you don't think you'll play that one. If you had to give a rough guess number wise to the number of games that were shown that you're like, yes, I want to pick that up and play it, how many would you say?
Um, well, I have a list of games that I wrote down. That doesn't mean that I would play them.
They were just worthy enough of being written down.
Pretty much, yeah. I would say, and again, it's hard because you get something like Fair Games where I'm just uh, assuming I'd want to at least try it.
Uh huh.
Um,
think there's like,
I would say probably around 10, which is an insane amount for me considering I don't think I've beaten 10 games in the past 3 years.
I was gonna say 10. That would be more games than yeah you could even hope to play in a year.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know. There's so many that I'm like I would try it, and then because there's only a few that I'm like absolutely not. Um, I don't know. I'll have to think more about it then. The next thing we were shown was Sword of the Sea, which as soon as it started, I immediately was like, "Hell yeah, new Journey game!" And then
Yeah.
and then they were like, from the creators of, and they were like Abzu, I forget what the other one was, and then they were like, and Journey, and I was like, "Yeah, buddy." Um, I just, God, like such an aesthetically pleasing. All of their games that they've made are so aesthetically pleasing, and then this game just looks just like so satisfying, and you're like I don't know, snowboarding the sand and bringing back the sea and stuff like that. It just looks like it's going to be such a charming and fun game. I love the art style. What
Yeah.
were your thoughts?
Yeah, though it's funny. I wrote down next to this one in parentheses, Journey Steep.
Yes, yes,
So I mean, it sounds good to me. I
yeah.
didn't enjoy Steep all that much, but I like Tony Hawk games and like that in general. So, and anything from that game company, right? Or am I thinking of someone else?
What do you mean?
Like the company is called That Game Company.
Oh, that's the. I don't know.
Maybe not. Let me see. Yeah,
Yes,
That
it
Game
is.
Company.
Yeah. Wow, I didn't know that.
Really? Well, fan journey you are.
Okay, listen here.
um, yeah, no, I'm sure that game. I'm sure that game will be fun. Definitely one I'd pick up. I'm assuming that's only going to be PC and PS5, probably.
That would be
Um,
my assumption as well. And I don't know if they like showed it or not because again, it's always so confusing during these things.
yeah,
Um then we got, let's see, the Talos Principle 2. I didn't realize there was a first one. Um like that was a game that definitely like was never really on my radar, but apparently this is just like a puzzle type game. Again, this was really mostly just like a cinematic trailer. They didn't really show um too much like in terms of the puzzles or anything like that. But again, the visuals looked very nice, very satisfying. And this is once again the first one was released on just about everything, I think, and so my assumption is this one will be as well. But again, I don't know.
yeah. I honestly didn't bother writing anything down for that game. I got to the point where if there wasn't enough information, then I just didn't make any notes.
Fair enough. And again, there was like so many like that, right? Where it's just like there's one right at the end that I'm just gonna say a while. And we don't need to like talk about it again. But so Firewalk, right, is another studio that PlayStation had just bought up, right?
Mhm.
And they showed off literally, I think the word Concord came up. I don't really think they showed anything else.
There was, yes, I do have a note on this one. There was a note, or sorry, a scene of what looked like the inside of like a spaceship, and there was like a gun on a table or something, and a
And oh,
really
and
jiggly looking cheeseburger.
yes, yes, yes. But like that was
And
it.
it's funny. My prediction is this is going to be a Starfield ripoff
Interesting.
because I don't know if you watch the preview again on the lockers, there is a group of parallel lines that are running across, and it's very similar to a lot of the promotional stuff you've seen for Starfield.
I did not catch that. I'll have to double back on that.
So my conspiracy theory is Sony is banking on Starfield uh, having pretty poor reviews, and they're gonna swoop in and
Try to
the launch.
offer, yeah, offer a replacement level Starfield.
Yeah, because for some reason people want these massive space games that are too big to even like, in my opinion, enjoy. So
Right.
we'll see.
Um. All right. Back to the order in which stuff was showing. We had
Mhm.
Neva or Neva. I don't think that it was.
Fuck that game.
I don't think it was pronounced. Yeah, that was the only thing you really like said anything to me about before this recording. Um. I mean, the art looks so incredible. I know you said that, and I know then it was very upsetting to watch the big old dog get consumed by the darkness. But then I don't know. Then the little dog was there, so maybe it's like a story about it's gonna be a coming of age, but for the like little dog, right?
I'm sure it's going to be great, and that's on my list of games that I would play. But just the way that art style just draws me in every time.
Oh yeah,
And then they show this big ass dog, and I'm like, that kind of looks like my big ass dog.
you were
And then they
the
show that big ass dog dying. I'm like, well, what the fuck? I have to think of my big ass dog dying. Thanks a lot. Really
thanks for
appreciate
nothing,
that.
Sony.
Yeah.
Wow, yes, that was very sad. Like it's crazy that a trailer can in what 2 minutes. It was probably up for like 2 minutes, and it could make you feel like all
If
these different emotions all at once. They really did a good job. I'm looking
yeah.
forward to that one for sure. A new Cat Quest game. I believe this would be the third, but I could be wrong. I think visually it was like very impressive, like how clean the graphics looked. That was really my only takeaway because I've never played any of the Cat Quest games. And the only
Mm.
other thing I will say is that the name of it is pretty chef's kiss, Pirates of the Caribbean.
Ah,
Was it pirates or was there another joke in there?
I gotta be honest with you, I completely missed that game.
That's fair. I don't even know how to describe what the game is, but I think you're a cat. Oh,
That's
there's ship combat, so never mind. Stay away.
yeah. Screw that. Not for
Um
me.
After that was Foam Stars. I didn't even write down the name of it because I literally wrote Square Enix Splatoon ripoff question mark and then that was it. But I think the name was Foam Stars.
Yes, it
Um
was.
and
I called it horny Splatoon.
yes, it really was. It really was. Um yeah, what the fuck did she like say, what did the character say at the end? But it was like it was just a little too raunchy for me. Um
Oh my god! That was. I hope Nintendo like sues Square Enix because it was just so blatant.
I just like
It wasn't even close to trying to be original. It was laughable.
as soon as like they like were like walking up to each other, I was like, "Oh, are we getting like a hero shooter game from Square Enix? Like that's crazy." And then he started shooting bubbles out of it, and I was just like, "Nope." It was like a Gatling gun, and he's shooting fucking bubbles, and like and the characters like jumping off of the bubbles, and I was just like, "Nah, fam. I cannot wait to hear when this has end of service to its servers because
oh
it's gonna
yeah,
be so fast." Um,
amazing.
this is probably my dark horse game, the next one. For in terms of like the game I'm most excited for. The Plucky Squire. I thought
I knew
that
you were gonna like this one.
dude, I thought the visuals of it, and I thought and so this isn't a PlayStation exclusive. It's coming to all consoles, but I thought like when they were doing almost like the rift jumps at points in the game, I thought it was like capitalizing on like the Sony technology that made Ratchet and Clank possibility. And so I was like, holy shit, like this looks awesome. And it still does. But uh dude, just like everything about the trailer for it, and I just thought it looked amazing, and I'm so looking forward to it. But again, probably my dark horse, um, outside of like literally the last thing we'll talk about, kind of being the obvious favorite for me.
Yeah, I didn't really have any opinions on this game. It kind of fell into the realm of not for me, but can appreciate it.
You go fuck yourself.
Okay.
I'm just, I'm just joking. Um, no, I totally get that. Um, I don't know, like it also almost gave me like It Takes Two vibes at points. So I was kind of like, oh, maybe this will be something that Mike also picks up.
Well, if it's gonna be like that,
I don't know. I mean, I just felt like at times when it was like in the air quotes real world aspect
what was
of
it
the like
called?
the plucky squire.
I'm sure I'm thinking of the right game.
I mean, if you're vehemently
Oh yeah,
against it because it has plucky in the name, that's totally fair as well.
no Squire though.
Oh,
So okay, well, I completely missed where they go into like out of the book.
yeah, because it's like 2D and then it's like almost. I don't know if it's quite
Okay,
3D or if it would be more like so described as like 2.5D kind of.
yeah,
But yeah, so I thought like when I saw that aspect of it, I was like, that's when I truly got behind it.
okay, and it's gonna be on the Switch.
My man, I said it's coming to
Okay,
everything.
well, you never know anymore with the Switch. We're getting to
Oh, that's
EOL with
fair.
that.
That's fair.
Yeah, okay, I'm into it. I completely missed that part.
All right, all right. Glad I got you to come around on it. I was ready to end the
You always
podcast.
get me to come around.
um, next game was Teardown, which I had seen gameplay of previously.
It's an
I'm
old game.
yeah, it was in beta for the longest time, I think, right? And so it was only on unless was it on Xbox?
It's my understanding it's only been on PC,
Okay,
but I
that's what
could
I
be
thought.
entirely wrong.
That's what I thought. I'm low key excited for this to kind of like get hands on with it.
Mhm.
It looks like it came out.
2020, I think.
This is saying 2022, but I don't know if that means like full release because I think I remember it being older than that.
I remember watching it at least, it had to be at least 2 years ago, because
Yeah,
Achievement Hunter was playing it.
it was early access in 2020. Nailed it. And that's definitely when I remember first seeing it. So it fully, I guess, released just over a year ago, and now it's going to be coming to, or yeah, just over a year ago, April 2022, and so now it's coming to PS5. And yeah, I'm low key looking forward to getting my hands on it because it looks like just looks like dumb fun. I don't know
Yeah,
how else
yeah.
to describe it, you know?
That's what I was gonna call it too.
Yeah, and so yeah, looking forward to that. Um all right. We now have to interrupt the podcast to I think say our apologies to Tom Henderson.
Do we?
Um and this really goes for the video game industry. I don't know if you saw this, but he broke a story about this next game and everybody said, "Yeah, fucking right." And then cut to the PlayStation showcase where you get a disgusting close up on some ants. I'm fucking sick to my stomach. And then we see animals eating each other in the water, and then we go into the jungle. And no, that's not Rambo. That is Snake himself. And Tom Henderson was right. Metal Gear Solid 3 remake is coming out. And it then looked like 1 and 2 are also getting remakes. Did I understand that correctly? Is that your interpretation of that ending?
No,
Or
I
just
think they have.
re-releases?
Well, I think the re-release already exists, so it's 1, 2, and 3.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and it's my understanding that it already exists, and it's just saying get caught up.
But I think 3 is like a legitimate remake.
It is. I think that the what they showed is just an HD version or whatever port.
Oh. Oh yeah. Oh, so wait, hang on. The versions of Sons of Liberty and Snake Eater in the collection that's going to release will be the ones from Metal Gear Solid HD collection, which yes, you are right,
Released
was
fucking
already out.
10 years ago, and then released before that. And
But this is a faithful remake
yes,
of
which I
it.
think is worth the time. I wish they would do it with the other two games first, but
That
whatever.
would be sick. Well, either way, um definitely fairly hyped about this. I not too long ago got both Metal Gear Solid 2 and Metal Gear Solid 3 for the PS2. I still need to get Metal Gear Solid 1. I really want to try and play through this series because you and I played Metal Gear Solid 4 a good bit, but that was also kind of when I wasn't really finishing video games, and so I definitely never got through it. But it's
Well,
always been something that I wanted to get back to
if you ever need something to have on while you're working, just play that.
because of the 2.5 hour cutscenes.
Oh, I think it's more than 2.5 hours. I think it's 2.5 hours of gameplay. I'm not joking. I'm really not.
No, I know. It's just funny.
I remember beating that game,
Mm-hmm.
and I basically did it in a day. So I'd started the game and just like was very slowly working through it, and then it was in high school, and I stayed home sick and just ripped through it.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember this time I was legitimately sick. I wasn't just faking sick to beat a game. And I was in the middle of a cutscene, and I don't think I could pause it. And I needed to go to the bathroom. And the cutscene ended up being an hour and a half. It's like 3/4 of the way through the game. There's one that's like an hour and a half long.
That's the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
That's one cutscene.
Right.
There are more.
Yes. That's typical Kojima though, right?
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Yeah. Like those games I feel like were pretty ahead of their time, but getting to see one now like on the current gen consoles cuz it's coming to all of them is very sick. So that was pretty hype. And then we saw this game called Towers of Agaspa. I don't know exactly how to pronounce that, but this game, again, they kind of just like were cutting around and like showing a lot of different aspects of it. But my main takeaway was how fucking big is this game?
Yeah.
Like at one point, it started like they started like like parachuting, paragliding, whatever. And they were like landed on like one of those like flying monsters, and I felt like you could see like it felt like you were way up, and I was of the assumption that you would be able to like float all the way down to the ground, and it just looked so damn massive.
Mhm.
That was one that that's one that I'm eager to see more about. I definitely need to see more, but
Yeah, I had that one written down as one that I need to see more of before I make a decision on, but definitely interested, and it's definitely a game that's kind of out of my wheelhouse.
it also seemed fairly chill. Like it didn't seem like I don't know, just like super intense or anything like that. Like
Hmm.
it seemed like a fairly laid back game. So that's why I'm like I said, eager to see more.
Yeah.
We got to see more Final Fantasy. I don't think too much needs to be said about that. The only thing that I kind of noticed about the trailer was that the like the mouth and the speaking didn't seem to line up, and so I'm curious if the game has like an English lip sync or if it's going to be one of those instances where like it might be better to play with just like English subtitles. Um,
Has that been the case in other Final Fantasy games?
well, so I haven't played a Final Fantasy game. Well, I did play 7 Remake for a little bit just to like try it out a little. And I'm fairly certain that I didn't notice like weird lip stuff. So I don't know if it was just the trailer that they had cut and like
Mm.
if in the game it actually will like look like it matches up better or what.
Well, I
Uh
guess maybe that makes sense because if they're probably developing it in
that
Japanese.
would be my assumption, yeah.
Yeah.
Um so that was just one of the things that I kind of noticed. Also Clive is a funny ass name. Like
That's like one that somebody not from America thinks is a standard American name.
definitely. Definitely. Clive is British, right? It's a British name.
Probably.
Um I can't get over it. It's such like it feels like such a white man, like a white man's name, and
Yeah.
it just like fucking cracks me up. Um, All right, and then another sequel. We get Alan Wake 2. I still need to play the first one, which did get a remake. Or was it a remaster? I can't remember. But
I
um,
think it was a remaster.
I enjoyed Control, and so I'm eager. Alan Wake 2, like again, visually and everything looks amazing, and so I'm actually eager to try and go back play the first one before this one comes out, or before I get around to playing this one. But
I
I
have
I thought this
been
looked good.
I've been trying to get myself to play Alan Wake for like the past, Jesus, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, because Quantum Break takes place in the same world.
I did not know that.
Yeah, and it's subtle. So like you absolutely do not have to have played Alan Wake before you play Quantum Break. There's like
Sure.
very subtle like things they take from the story. So, but since that, I've been really wanting to play Alan Wake. I don't know if I have the remaster, but I know I have like the 360 version that gets upscaled on
Hmm.
Xbox. Um, so I've been really wanting to play that. This is a game I will likely get, and I'm assuming it will come to Game Pass. But I also still haven't played Control.
Control, I think, kind of does similar to what you're saying about uh, Quantum Break, where there's actually a full blown story reference to Alan Wake. Um, the only reason I picked up on it is because I'm pretty sure they either say Alan Wake or I was confused about what was happening in the story, and then I like looked it up and it was like this is an Alan Wake reference. One of the two things. Um,
Yeah, I mean, in Quantum Break, you're in a classroom, and there's literally like theories, I think, written by Alan Wake,
okay,
and you have like a full 10-minute discussion about it.
gotcha. Yeah, I mean it's funny that it's like bled over into other games we've played, and it's something that like we've known about, but yet still have to get around to playing it.
Hmm.
But yeah, I thought visually and everything. Again, it just looked. I just can't get over how like good like humans like look, like people look in like these games now. It's nuts.
Right.
Um, all right, next thing we saw was Assassin's Creed Mirage. Curious to hear your thoughts on this.
This was the game that I was referencing at the beginning, where like even in bad quality, I could tell was just gonna be rehashed shite. I just like God. I know they said they were only going to do Assassin's Creed every other year, which I applauded,
Mm-hmm.
but it's still the same fucking game.
Yes.
Like whole I so when they first started playing this, I'm like, is this a new game or is this like an Assassin's Creed 1 remaster?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I don't remember Assassin's Creed 1 taking place in the Middle East. Um, but like the movement, like that stupid run that happens in every Assassin's Creed game. It looks like they're trying to fucking ice skate, but they're just running.
Uh huh.
Oh my god, it just looks and it's really not that big of a deal. It's not. I was hopeful that they'd take this break in the franchise and they'd come out with something better, and it's just the same rehashed crap.
Mm-hmm. And
That's my opinion.
and honestly, I thought this looked worse than what we've been getting because
Yeah.
like when they made the change, like Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla are all like really different from the original Assassin's Creed games. So they were refreshing for the most part. They then started to just like get repetitive off of each other, but like just Origins, right? Like if we would have never had another one after and it was just Origins that was out, I mean, what an amazing game. It just starts to get diminished as you like keep putting out like basically the same game. But it was fun that they were doing like different time periods and like places like which is like a staple obviously of Assassin's Creed
Mhm.
with these new mechanics. Like it just felt better at least. This looks I don't know how to describe it. Like literally I wrote it looks like Assassin's Creed Light. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't even look like the new Assassin's Creeds. I don't know like what happened, but I am
It's
not I'm not in on this at all.
it's funny because it's not like they're building new engines for this. So it's not like it's an early development preview, you know? It's just reskinned old game.
Yeah.
And the one thing that really just kind of made me laugh was you look at the fight scenes that were just like re-angled, but you could tell it was kind of gameplay. And like when the main character was like attacking an NPC, there wasn't like a stumble, it was like a shift back. Like the feet stayed in place. There was like a shift back. They show one like almost getting knocked over an edge, and it was just a foot floating in space. And it's like
Mm-hmm.
I understand that those kind of details are hard, but you're not innovating. You're not doing anything.
100%.
And it's just it's frustrating to see this in the industry, but people will buy it. So
Yeah.
and it's
I
also frustrating because I feel like the story, and I don't know if they specified like what country it's specifically going to be in, but in the Middle East is like a really cool environment, I think.
mhm.
And it just feels like they're gonna waste it.
Yeah. Um yeah, this is like I'm definitely going to pass on this. And I don't know if I'll pick it up until I have a free option to do so.
Yeah. I've stayed away from Assassin's Creed this long.
But like I got Origins, like I was off the Assassin's Creed train, and then I got Origins for like $15, and I loved it. I thought it was so good, and so then I was back on the train for a bit, and I don't think I paid full price for Odyssey, but then I did because Valhalla was one of the first games out for um like the now current gen. I did get Valhalla like basically as soon as I had a PS5,
Mhm.
and I'm just back off of it now. Like maybe if it was like on the level of Valhalla, I'd be like, yeah, I could play another Assassin's Creed game again. But I don't know. I think I would. I think I think Valhalla only got my money up front because there was
It
slim
was the only
pickings.
like yeah, it was like the only actual next gen game that was out.
Yeah. So, all right. To kind of speed up through a couple of these things, I'm just gonna read off what was shown next. I was mostly meh on like most of these, I'll say. So we had Revenant Hill, which was like an indie type game. We had Grand Blue Fantasy, Relink, Street Fighter 6, Ultros, Tower of Fantasy. Then we had Dragon's Dogma 2, so another sequel. And then the Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted. Is there anything in there that you wanted to kind of highlight?
No, I didn't write anything down in there.
Yeah, the only thing that I thought looked pretty interesting was Dragon's Dogma 2, just because again,
Mhm.
the visuals were just like nuts. But I haven't played the first one, and I'm curious, do you think uh I feel like sometimes with like sequels that come out like so late to in relation to like the original, do you think we see a Dragon Dogma's like remaster or something come out, because that game was on the PS3 if I remember correctly?
I'd have to see who the developer is. Um, I mean, probably
Yeah.
because we didn't. This was just like an initial.
I don't think they gave like
It's
a
Capcom. I mean, they're not really known for that kind of stuff before releases, right?
yeah, I don't know. I
I
guess
mean,
it did have
it
a
was. Go
sorry.
ahead.
It did
The
have a
finances.
release port for PS4, which I didn't
Yeah,
realize, and then like those consoles, Xbox One and Nintendo Switch, even got it in 2019. So
yeah. I doubt it.
yeah, probably not. I when I first saw it, it was only on PS3, so I was like, oh, this would be like a prime opportunity to pull that stunt. But um, okay.
They got their Netflix special. That's how they're making up for it. Apparently, I don't remember that, but
Me neither. All right. Then we had a slate of PSVR 2 titles that were shown off. You being the more VR vet of the podcast, I'm interested to hear your thoughts. But we saw, and hopefully I didn't miss anything, we saw Resident Evil 4, we saw Arizona Sunshine 2, we saw Crossfire Sierra Squad, Synapse, and Beat Saber, which I put a little note for Beat Saber. Yay, Justine.
yeah, I so Beat Saber is the only one I didn't write anything down for because like
It's Beat Saber.
I'm pretty sure this is. I'm like almost certain you have to rebuy this.
I
Yeah.
am of that same thought. Yes,
Yeah,
which sucks.
and that would piss me off. However, um, the Queen music pack, Chef's Kiss, we'll
Hmm.
probably buy that for. I'm assuming you're going to be able to get it for PS4, but
I would hope so.
um, I thought it was a solid showing. I thought the Resident Evil 4 um, update that's going to come out was solid. I think that will get a lot of people excited because I know that all of the Resident Evil VR games have been impressive. Like they've been real showcases of what you can do with the technology.
Hmm.
I'm excited for Arizona Sunshine too. I have Arizona Sunshine. I have not played it. I've watched other people play it.
I was curious about
And
that.
yeah, I know the first game is pretty bare bones and simple. So it looks like this one is adding some more like fun mechanics, a little more story. Um, so I'll be interested to see that one. I think it'll be good. Crossfire. I've played games like that on PSVR, and they're generally pretty good, pretty fun. I'm curious as to if this is from the Crossfire franchise.
I'm assuming, right?
I don't I don't know. It didn't take like any of the same branding. And that has been like mostly an Xbox franchise recently. Let me see.
Let's see. Smilegate, were they the original Crossfire?
Well, it's South Korean. That would make sense. Yeah, creator of Crossfire. Okay, so we'll see. Crossfire X was dog shit. Apparently, I have it. Haven't played it. But we'll see. Uh, and as far as like new IP, Synapse looked pretty cool to me.
Yeah, I thought so too.
That
I wrote looked pretty sick.
yeah, that reminded me of oh shit, what's the game? Super Hot.
Yes, that was the thing that I was drawing comparisons to. I couldn't think of the name for the life of me. So I'm so happy you just said it because that is exactly the vibe I got as well.
Yeah, so that game I think will be really good.
Yeah, that one looked
Um,
fun.
so I think it was a good showing. Um, obviously Beat Saber gets people excited about VR, but you know, I would be mad if I had to pay for it again, and I just wouldn't. And frankly, if I get a VR system, a new one, Beat Saber needs to be on it. So,
Right.
because that's like the party trick game. That's the game where you can actually like have fun for hours with people playing.
I was just saying, just about anybody can like pick it up, right?
Yeah, we've had just about everyone in our family play it.
Yeah.
So, um, I thought it was a decent showing. I do have another thought on VR with one of the following games, so we'll move on to that. I guess when you get your note about Beat Saber out.
When I get my note about Beat Saber out.
You said you had a note about Beat Saber,
Oh,
right?
my note was I just said yay, Justine.
Oh, gotcha,
Because
gotcha.
I know she loves Beat Saber.
Yes, big fan. She'll probably listen to this podcast, and I'll have to set it up again. Well, I had the VR set up in my house for a while, but now it's sitting on the floor of my office.
She's gonna want to play the new Queen pack.
I want to play the new Queen pack. Let's be honest.
Um, what was the other thing you wanted to say about?
So we're going to talk about Marathon.
Yes.
So Bungie's new game. So this is a big deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
At the very beginning, they show like a character that looks like it has like some sort of VR headset on,
Mm-hmm.
and it looks very similar to the PSVR 2. So they showed this trailer, and I was like, holy shit, Bungie's next game is a VR game. That's huge. Like, that's massive news.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to look it up, and that does not seem to be the case.
That is, yeah.
Yeah.
um,
So major missed opportunity, but probably a very pragmatic decision on
yeah.
Bungie's part.
I had a similar reaction to like when we saw Haven at the beginning. When I saw Bungie, I was like, oh my god, this is gonna be, I'm assuming, Bungie's first game uh like under PlayStation. Apparently Marathon was already a thing.
Yeah, that was Bungie's first game.
Had no idea.
Came out for Apple computers. Surprisingly, it's a huge anomaly in the gaming space. It was like the first ever like game developed for an Apple computer that was like major.
Like I only knew of Bungie as Halo and Destiny.
Yeah, no, they made a Doom ripoff called Marathon.
Well, and here we are.
Yeah,
So, literally, another PvP. I guess the focus on this is like extraction type gameplay. I thought the cool thing that I saw, again looking at this Verge article, it is currently in development for PS5, Xbox Series S and X, and PC,
mhm,
and
yeah,
should have full crossplay and cross save. And that, that makes me happy to see, because I think we've talked about it in the past, but I was fairly worried that like Sony was going to do the grubby thing and buy them up and then withhold them from the games industry, and doesn't seem like that's the case just yet.
and they fucked up because I watched this and I was like, okay, Destiny's new game, Bungie's new game. I guess this is going to be another like thing to start pushing me towards getting a PS5. And then yeah, I looked it up and said Series X. Like, nice try, PlayStation.
Yeah, take that.
But I imagine it's going to be. And we'll talk about this next, I guess. But I assume this is possibly what's going to overtake Destiny if it does
Probably.
well. So uh, gatekeeping that on one platform would probably be a very poor long-term decision for Sony.
Yeah, agreed. Which, to that point, they did have a new thing for Destiny, which very much felt like end of Destiny, like the final content push. It's called the final shape, so don't know if I'm reading into it too much. Apparently, Bungie is going to have a Destiny showcase on August 22nd, where they're going to talk more about this, and my guess is probably the end of Destiny 2.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then we already touched on it. Then they showed off the Firewalk Studios game, Concord. Apparently, this is going to be a multiplayer shooter. I
Hmm.
just saw that headline, so I don't know, but
Yeah.
that,
PvP first person shooter from Fireworks Studios.
yeah, I mean, it makes sense. It's clearly what Sony's going for, is live service type games. So, um, with some of
Every
these
time
newer
you log
studios,
in is the beginning of a new adventure.
interesting. I mean, obviously, it kind of makes sense given that they have such a catalog already built of great single player experiences. So some of these newer studios that they bought up, it makes sense to try and delve into getting their name on some more multiplayer games.
Yeah, other than Haven, I agree with that.
No, yeah, I'm with you. I'm just saying, like, it shouldn't really surprise us, I guess, is
Yeah.
more so what I'm getting at. The last thing that we were shown, and once again, we have to interrupt this podcast to say our apologies to Tom Henderson, because he was right. Project Q was a thing, and it was officially shown. I wrote Project Q officially shown, no way, because I also put Jim Ryan's back. What a cuck. And then I said Project Q was shown, no way. um, Interested to find out more details there. We've talked about that extensively in another episode, basically saying like what makes it not worth it, basically in terms of a price. So I don't think any information's out regarding that just yet, but we'll see. They also announced PlayStation wireless headphones, so you can show off your wealth in a whole new way by buying those, I'm sure, $400 wireless earbuds.
it's it's such an anomaly to me because Sony headphones and Sony earbuds are some of the best that you can buy.
Hmm.
But as soon as they slap the PlayStation logo on it, they make it far too expensive and dog shit quality.
And it's just so douchey.
Well, I mean, like, we both had PlayStation like over the ear headsets that were strictly used for gaming because I had to plug in with like a USB stick.
Hmm.
Well, like the fake leather they use is so bad. They sound fine,
Hmm.
but
I'm using them right now.
yeah, but they cost over $100 generally, and they're just such bad quality. So I don't. Maybe this is supposed to go along with Project Q, but
Yeah.
so I'm going back to that. I'm reading something from Axios, and Axios says it's going to be, and I don't know, maybe it's just misinterpreted, but it's supporting streaming over Wi-Fi.
Hmm.
And again, I think we don't need to talk about this ton because we have a whole episode on it. But if it's all a Wi-Fi only device, I just don't get it.
I just don't get why you would again pay past a certain point.
And I mean, I just saw um, yesterday, it might have been that Backbone is finally making a PlayStation branded Android
Hmm.
controller too. So I just if it doesn't have 5G, I miss the point.
Right. I'm with you. I am with you.
So we'll see.
Doesn't mean I won't pick it up, but
I hear you.
all right, then that was it. And then, the classic one more game. And so we get one more look into a new game. And I don't know about you, but this entire like trailer and like interaction thing and whatnot was like a roller coaster of emotions because they started showing it and it was in the jungle. And I was like, no fucking way. There has to be something else beyond this because they have to show Spider-Man. And then like they showed who we then know is Craven the Hunter, but I was just like, is this Spider-Man? Like I like couldn't like decide. And then it like faded to
Mhm.
black. Like and then it confirmed by showing like you have to go to a new hunting ground, and then it shows like New York. And I was like, oh, okay, this is Spider-Man. Thank God. And then it cut to black, and I was like, are you fucking shitting me? That was it. And then it came back, and I was just like, oh my God. Like if that would have been all we would have seen for it, I actually would have been mad. Because that's coming out in fall. They still haven't given a concrete date. Love that, by the way. Um, but it's coming out in fall, and I'm like, please, I need to see like what's going to be happening in this game. Like, I need to know like how the dynamic of like Peter and Miles works, and having to control like two different Spider-Men. And dude, like I like don't want to like waste like all this time. Like I know the episode's already been over an hour and stuff like that, but I am so fucking excited for this game. I think it looks like it's going to be so sick. I love that Peter has the symbiote, and so like we already knew Venom was going to be a thing. We kind of knew that was going to be a possibility that like we see Black Suit Spider-Man. Peter's the one with the symbiote. And so there's going to be like conflict between Miles and him, which is going to be sick when that comes out. But like the ability to have them both working together and like the switching between the characters, I think is going to be handled like extremely well. And I cannot freaking wait.
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier, like, um, Marathon being like the game that if it was VR, like finally pushing me in that direction. I definitely feel like Spider-Man 2 is going to be the game that I'm going to miss out on.
Hmm.
And like you mentioned earlier, I forget what game it was for. We were talking about how massive a world was. That was my thought for this game because it's like, are you actually going to like be in all five boroughs and
Right.
not just Manhattan?
And like the new traversal that like makes it look like you can get around a little bit quicker. I'm almost thinking
Mhm.
like that's a legit possibility. Like
Yeah.
I really need to control myself to not get too fucking excited because I just like everything they were showing, I was just like getting giddy. I was just like a kid in a candy shop. I was so happy.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited for this one. Um, we'll see what happens. It might push me towards getting a PS5. But I was also like, why I still haven't played Miles Morales? And I was waiting to play that on PS5, but I don't know. Maybe I'll just get it on PS4 to get myself hyped up for it.
Oh, such a good game.
Because I'm going to go out on a limb and say Spider-Man 2 is not coming out for PS4.
Yeah,
I feel like if they're going to make it as massive as they want to with all this switching back and
Mhm.
forth, I don't think they can do that on a PS4.
I don't think so either, because I think the idea is that it's gonna take advantage of that's taking advantage of what they did with Ratchet and Clank, I thought.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see. But man, that was definitely the right way to end it because holy crap, it looked like it was gonna be amazing. That's the only thing I will say. That was the only game that looked like a first day buy for me. Which might kind of go without saying that like I'm sure for most people, maybe Final Fantasy, which is like a month out. I know obviously like people are huge about that, but um yeah, like for me, nothing else was like I have to get this right away except for Spider-Man 2. Like I
Yeah,
know I'm
I
getting it day
agree.
one. It just
Well, except for Marathon too, because you and I are going to play that game together and we're going to play it from the start.
oh yeah.
Assuming that they do crossplay, which that might be the
I,
Sony thing that
I think it said cross-play and cross saves.
wonder if that's everything or just PS5 to PC.
Mm,
We shall see.
we shall. That's a good point. If it does have crossplay, even whether you have a PS5 or not, we will be able to play that. That'd be fun. Oh my god, we have a game finally, maybe, potentially.
There we go. We'll play.
What was the game for you that was like? What's the one that was shown that you're like kind of most excited for? I guess.
Other than Spider-Man,
Sure.
I would say probably Marathon.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I feel like Metal Gear is the low-hanging fruit.
Hmm.
Uh, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna play that game or just like kind of check out what it looks like.
Hmm. That's fair.
Um, so yeah, we'll see.
That is fair. Yeah. It. I mean, kind of the same as you. Like outside of Spider-Man too. Um, I'm I am excited for both Marathon and Fair Games because like I just want to see what these companies are going to do, but I also I'm just nervous because it's PvP and I know how quickly I can fall off of games like that. Um but I'm super curious if it's going to be like enough to like grab me and keep a hold of me. Um but outside of those, it would still be the Plucky Squire for me. Um
Mhm.
very much looking forward to that. All right. That is it for this episode. I think we're what? So next not there won't be anything next week, but then the following week, I believe, is when Xbox has their showcase, if I remember
I believe
correctly.
it's the 11th.
Oh, theirs is the 11th. When is I'm trying to pull up a I thought there was something on the 8th, which would technically be a Thursday. So I guess that episode could potentially be a predictions episode. Um, But yeah, we're in that like sweet spot where we're about to have a lot of stuff to talk about, and I'm really looking forward to it. Uh, I'm excited to hear what you, dear listener, thought of the PlayStation Showcase. Um, what you thought the highs were, or if there were any lows. What game are you most excited for? Obviously, and I guess you know if you feel so inclined, throw out a prediction for what you think Xbox might counter with during their showcase. What do you think is going to be their big reveal? I would say the biggest surprise, even though we kind of heard the rumor, was Metal Gear Solid 3 for me. I was not really prepared for that again outside of the rumor. So, um, and even then, I was still shocked. So curious if anybody thinks Xbox might do something similar or have something in their back pocket to reveal for the games industry as a whole. But yeah, other than that, thank you all for listening. If you can, leave us a rating or review wherever you listen. And be sure to share the podcast with a friend, with a loved one, with an enemy, whoever. Just share it, please, for the love of God. And we'll talk to you next week.